Good day to you, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Film Focus episode 191. Quick thoughts on the Predator Badlands teaser trailer. Well, hello there, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of Film Focus. I'm your host, the Hyperson55, and I am glad that you decided to join me once again for some film-related discussion. And today we're going to be talking about the recent teaser trailer for Predator Badlands. Now, the Predator franchise is one of many ups and downs, but the original is one of my all-time favorite films. I saw it when I was much too young, but it has left an impression on me since then, and it's such an interesting mix of action, sci-fi and horror, and the concept alone of this alien warrior going around hunting the fiercest of prey is so cool, and I think that there is so many stories that can be told. And while there have been plenty of new stories told, none of them have quite matched the heights of that 1987 original film, with the exception being Prey, that got pretty close in the hearts and minds of many, me included. And speaking of Prey, good gravy, what a breath of fresh air after the disaster that was The Predator from 2018, which killed my enthusiasm for the franchise. Prey came out of nowhere and provided us with a familiar yet fresh take on the formula, and with Dan Trachtenberg back in the director's chair for another film after that, I was down with whatever he was going to do. Now, when it was announced about Predator Badlands being the sequel, it was definitely not the sequel I had expected, but I was still excited, and now having seen the teaser, I am all sorts of curious and hyped. So what are my immediate thoughts after seeing the trailer? Mate, it looks pretty cool. I like the atmosphere, the action looks intense, I really like the scope and scale of the locations and the visuals, and while there are definitely some familiar vibes, I think what's been shown feels different from what we've gotten before, and that is what makes me curious. Now, when it comes to the Predator franchise, obviously it exists far beyond the films, and especially in the world of the comics, that's where we've gotten to see a lot of really interesting crossovers. And I feel like, especially for readers who have checked out that material over the years, there is a lot of material that they could mine in terms of borrowing that and then adapting it into film. But obviously, whenever it comes to new adaptations of the Predator franchise, they're always trying to do something new and original in that regard. I don't know if there's been many attempts to try and borrow anything from the written material when it comes to the Predator franchise. But when it comes to this teaser trailer, I want to break it down into some sections. So I want to talk about the setting, I want to talk about the protagonist, I also want to mention what's going on with Elle Fanning's character, how this one will be different from previous entries in the franchise, will there be any ties to the previous Predator films, and the special question that I'll have just at the end. So without further ado, let's jump in. So firstly, let's talk about the setting. With the exception of Predators, most of the Predator movies have taken place on Earth, in places like jungles, forests or seas, but Badlands seems to have the most unique location so far, in a sense that we seem to be on some desolate planet with all sorts of interesting imagery of a wasteland, some canyons, some interesting sort of forest with cool looking plants and stuff, and it definitely seems to have some cool imagery going on so far, but I'm wondering what is in the environment that will make it, interesting. How will the protagonist try to navigate these waters, and how much of the environment will be actively against, was it the main predator trying to do what they do? And then we move on to the fact that the predator is the protagonist. Now, every film in the franchise has had a main character. You had Arnie in the first film, you had Danny in the second, you had Adrian Brody in the third, and while, the Predator technically didn't really have a main character, but Prey had Amber Midthunder. So in this case, we don't actually have a human as the main character, but again, the Predator is the main character. Apparently they're a young Predator that has to prove themselves and has been cast away. I'm wondering how they'll be framed in the film and how the story will allow the audience to relate or at least sympathize with them. because obviously they'll want us to root for them in terms of what they're doing. I'm just wondering how that will be portrayed and if it's going to be effective or not. Because again, we've always had, like, is it a human character going up against the Predator, or in some cases teaming up with them? So with the Predator, the alien Yachua being front and center instead of the human, I'm just like, how are they going to make this work? I'm very, very curious. And then there's Elle Fanning's character. Now, I have forgotten her name. I know it's listed online at the moment. But initially when I saw the teaser trailer the first time, I thought, okay, obviously because of the weird thing that she does with her eyes, is she some sort of mutant or enhanced human or a robot? But fans who were eagle-eyed clocked it straight away, but it took me a little while to notice afterwards. But there was some imagery on her eyes that highlights she is an android from the Weyland-Yutani Corporation. Now, obviously, for those who are aware, that is the big bad organization from the Alien franchise, which also sparks our speculation about if we are building towards the Alien versus Predator universe again. Now, for those who were alive or just, around when it went down, the AVP franchise has been around for many decades now, first showing up, I think, in the comics and also having some appearance in video games. Now, the official film of the AVP series started in 2004 with the film that was done by Paul W.S. Anderson, and that film was okay. I enjoyed it a lot more when I was 14, but on subsequent viewings I found it just very not good. I mean, there was certain stuff about the action that was decent, but I didn't love the plot, and I didn't love how the Predators were framed. They all just seemed like big hulking dudes instead of, the more slimmer, more agile designs that you had before. And it was just more of a case of just random slug match between these two iconic figures instead of something that felt like it naturally came together. And by the time it was over, I was just like, the idea of a alien hybrid between the Yachua and the Xenomorph was pretty cool, but then we got Alien vs Predator Requiem, and that film was just that was tragic. So yeah, not good. But with this being the first film in a while that's slowly suggesting that these universes are connected again, I'm hoping what they're going to do is do these subtle references and slowly build towards that crossover again instead of just trying to force it. Let's just keep it subtle and make some allusions to the fact that these universes are connected. And if they do have a good story where they can tie these things together, then yeah, let's make it happen. But yeah, going back to her character for a second, obviously she's linked to the Predator, but what will their relationship be like? Will she be good? Will she be bad? Or somewhere in between? Will she be crafty or duplicitous? I just need to know. And then we have to wonder, how will this film be different from previous films in the franchise? Now, the premise of a Predator film is pretty cool, and we've seen several different scenarios done in the films and obviously a lot more in the comics. That being said, the broad strokes are normally the same. Predator arrives, wrecks shop and causes some chaos, and then there's a singular human who finds the will and ingenuity to outsmart the alien and kill them. Each sequel has presented new aspects to the franchise, and at least 3 different entries try to change things up with varying degrees of success. Predators took the format of the first film, but then put a specialized set of humans on an alien planet and then had them hunted by multiple aliens. And we also got to see some cool and new aspects of the mythology. Unfortunately, I don't feel like the filmmakers went as far as they could with the concept. And then there was Prey, which was set at the earliest time period that the series has seen so far. It also had a female lead and also did some cool things with the indigenous tribe and the warring factions as well. And then there was The Predator again from 2018, which, while it did attempt to present some new story and mythology, it was so absurd and threw most of the established lore out of whack. So it was just so nonsensical that it's not even worth paying attention to. I'm just hoping that we get a film that pushes the franchise forward like Prey did. And then we have to wonder, will there be any ties to Prey or any of the previous Predator films? Now, these films have always had tangential connections, though they mostly revolve around the first film, whether they vaguely refer to the event with Dutch and his men in the jungle, or with Prey, you had one of the guns that was apparently the same gun that Danny Glover got in Predator 2. Now, with Badlands being directed by Trachtenberg again, I do wonder if there will be any connections to Prey or if there will be any references to any other Predator films. Now, when it comes to references, obviously they could be big or small, and obviously there have been some allusions made in the trailer that's been put out. But any sort of visual or verbal references or potential cameos, should they feel natural or not impede the story, would be interesting to see. So I'm hoping there'll probably be some tiny bits and bobs, maybe a mid or post credits, but we'll see. And the final question I have for this film is, will the Predator win? Now, this is more of a pipe dream than a legit question, but I do think about it from time to time. In every film that the Predator is in, for all its advanced tech, strength and sneakiness, they always get bested by humans. Now, the way they get defeated are legit, and the struggle to win is crazy, but it does make you question how badass this race is if they keep getting bested by humans in every entry. Now granted, sometimes they underestimate their opponents. However, sometimes I think humanity should have lost a fight or two, especially when it comes to a film like The Predator. So with the alien being the main character this time around, maybe we'll actually see them being victorious? I mean, hopefully, I guess we'll see. And yeah, I guess that's all of my major questions that I have in regards to the teaser trailer for Predator Badlands. I am very curious and excited to see how this film turns out in November. And with the animated film Killer of Killers also being directed by Trachtenberg coming out in June, we're set for a pretty big year for this franchise. And if both films are successful, we may be seeing this really fun upturn in the properties going ahead. But we'll see in due time. Now I turn it over to you, ladies and gentlemen. What do you think of the teaser trailer for Predator Badlands? Are you feeling it or not? Let me know in the comment section below, or hit me up on Twitter where I'm at Hypersonic55 or at FilmFocus55, and check out Film Focus on Instagram. And obviously, whenever it comes to the podcast, you can find it on your podcast platform of choice. We're all over the place, and on YouTube as well, so feel free to subscribe there. But yeah, I'll stop rambling for now. Thank you for listening as always, and then until the next time, this is the Hypersonic 55 signing out. Peace.